All right, let's move on to Ultimate Girls Trip Season 4. I feel like everyone's kind of tired of hearing this, but these are the updates that I've heard about it and like kind of how things transpired. So when I originally heard the story and I kind of heard the initial bits of it, I just heard about Brandi kind of making a move at Caroline and trying to get her to loosen up and trying to get her to, have a drink, let her hair down, and kiss, right? And apparently, everyone was drinking that night and they were all having a good time. But I guess at some point, Brandi did end up in a bathroom with Caroline. I don't know if she locked the door and pinned her against a wall and started grabbing her all over. I don't know how aggressive all of those details were, but there was some fondling in the bathroom as well. It seems like from Brandi's side of things, like it was just playful. Again, if it's unwanted and, that's still inappropriate and not right. And, you can't make unwanted passes at people if they tell you they don't want them, right? And if she said it outside that she didn't want it, then why would she want it in the bathroom? But also, we also saw the latest report with Page 6 that said that they were kissing after they were taking some tequila shots. So I can also see the blurred line of like, well, if you guys are taking tequila shots and you're kissing outside, then who's to think that, like, now I'm starting to see the picture a little bit fuller. But now I can see why you would think, oh, well, we were kissing outside and we were, whatever, that you would think maybe I can make an additional pass because it seems like, this is like you're into it, I feel like sometimes that line is a little hard, especially when people are drinking. That doesn't excuse Brandi's behavior, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying that there's a lot more context, and there are, two sides of every story. The initial reports just made it seem like Brandi kept persistently trying to aggressively go at Caroline, where now it sounds like they were kind of being a little loosey-goosey, and they may have kissed, and it may have just continued. Brandi, I think, didn't know how to stop herself. Not that that's right either. I'm not defending Brandi here. But it seems like in the bathroom, it kind of progressed a little further and it made Caroline a little more uncomfortable. And Alex McCord was also there and she was kind of like, are you okay? And Caroline's like, I'm fine, I'm okay. And then I guess what happened was it was triggering for Caroline. And maybe it just gone too far. Maybe Caroline was kind of like, you know what, let's have a little fun. Let's be a little loose. We're on vacation. This is girls' trip. Like, let's kind of let our hair down. And maybe Caroline was starting to open up, but she's still a little, hard and stuffy. And so it sounds like Alex talked to Caroline, and I guess Caroline, this is all alleged, right? These are all, just inside sources that have shared things to me, because originally I was getting different little pieces here and there, and then I started to piece all the pieces together, and then I had one more person kind of could give me the full timeline of how it all played out for the most part, and then I filled in a couple of gaps with some of the other things. But I guess, and again, this is alleged, I guess that there was it was triggering for Caroline based off of her past experiences when she was younger. I guess there was some assault that she had faced when she was much younger, I think like young. And that experience with Brandi was triggering, to bring those things back. And then apparently they do discuss it on the trip and it is brought up on camera. Like it is a conversation that they have. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to be played out or how it's all going to air and get edited together because they were mic'd. So I'm assuming the microphones in the bathroom were on so they know, what the situation is. And I get it. Like it's hard because it's like, or not hard, but there's a lot of gray area here. Listen, unwanted touches are unwanted touches and they're unwanted, period, end of story. That line should never be crossed, right? I want to be very clear about that. But also, I can understand how if they are fooling around and being silly outside and then, they go into the bathroom and Brandi thinks like, oh, we're being fun and we're being silly and I'm still being fun and I'm still being silly. And Caroline was uncomfortable with that. But I can understand it from Caroline's perspective because she apparently is claiming that, it triggered past memories. And so I understand where maybe it's not necessarily Brandi that Caroline is upset with, but the fact that this experience with Brandi triggered her. And so, now I understand why it says that she was so uncomfortable and that's why she wanted to leave the trip earlier. Like all of this starts to make a lot more sense. So given the full context of it, like I get it, but I can also see both sides of it. And I can see how Brandi may think I wasn't in the wrong because I wasn't doing anything that I wasn't misreading the situation because I thought that there was, a situation. I do still think it's a little weird because I don't think Caroline is Brandi's type, but I know a lot of people are like, that's not how assault works, and it's not about who's your type and who's not your type, and you're such a typical man. I was like, all right, calm down. So, yeah, that's more. And then I guess the next morning is when Brandi texts Caroline and she tried to apologize to her, but they had to put her in a separate hotel room. And I don't believe Brandi filmed with them, but Caroline filmed with the other women, and they do talk about it. And, some of the women, I guess, were leaning more towards Brandi, but I believe Alex was definitely more towards Caroline. And I think Alex, she's a therapist, right? Like she's like study in Australia. She like studied to be a therapist. So I would understand, Caroline confiding in Alex and her being a little closer to Alex. But I mean, the whole thing is wild, and this is really dark. And with all of this context, like a lot of it does start to make a lot more sense. Why it was triggering for Caroline, why she felt uncomfortable enough to want to leave the trips early, why Brandi would be confused, and why Brandi would not fully understand all of this, and why Brandi would think Caroline was just trying to cause drama. Like now it starts to make a little more sense, or a lot more sense. But I am curious how this is all going to come out. And then Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3, I hear the trailer is supposed to be dropping this week or next week. It's going to be dropping soon. Probably this week. I would assume the trailer comes this week, if not next week at the latest, for Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3, which is going to be weird. But now it also makes sense with Season 3 and the timing of it. Because remember, we're like, why are they waiting so long? Why do we don't care? And blah, 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 blah. Hello? Of course they waited so long to release this because we needed the current season of Salt Lake City and the current season of Potomac to finish airing before they could release Girls Trip because of the drama that ensued throughout season 3 of Salt Lake City and the most recent season of Potomac, because Candace and Giselle are on the trip together, and they obviously did not hit it off after that last season. And then Heather Gay and Whitney are obviously fighting based off of the last season of Salt Lake City, and the Ultimate Girls Trip was filmed immediately after the last season's finished production. So in order for us to see some of the things that were being discussed on Ultimate Girls Trip, and in order for us to understand the full context of why Candace and Giselle are fighting and why Whitney and Heather are not on good terms anymore, we needed to see these seasons finish playing out. And obviously they didn't want any spoilers either, and they still wanted to be able to not have to edit things out of Ultimate Girls Trip Season 3. So it all makes sense, long story short. And Real Housewives of Miami, although I don't think there's much with Alexia and Marisol. But it all makes sense now. It all makes sense. I get it. Now we know why they waited so long. It's kind of dumb, but I also, I get it. So we should be expecting that to come out soon, especially now that Potomac is already on its reunion. Miami's wrapping up soon. I would assume the Ultimate Girls Trip will start when we finish up Miami. The end of Miami will be the beginning of Girls Trip. So, yeah.